Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Mike and Beans. I'm Beans, and I'm with Mike.
Hello, hello.
So today we're going to talk about the NBA a little more. The conference finals are in full swing, and so far both series have been, pretty close, pretty fun to watch. Except for if you watched last night's Bucks game where they blew out the Hawks by 34 points.
Not even close.
But yes, we're going to start with the Clippers and Suns in the Western Conference Finals. So, first question for you, Michael. Chris Paul comes back after coming out of COVID-19 protocols. So, and the Suns lost, and I think everyone was kind of surprised by it, in my opinion. I think after the Suns went up 2-0, and because Kawhi's not coming back for the Clippers, I think everyone kind of counted out the Clippers, in my opinion. But Paul George kind of led the Clippers in 28 and 15 on 9 of 26 shooting. So a little iffy on the shooting, but dropped 28 points, led the Clippers to a Game 3 win. And Game 4 is tonight, so that'll be interesting to see. But if you're the Suns, should you be worried a little bit? Chris Paul, their leader, you think he didn't look the same, but the Clippers, should the Suns be a little worried because they probably should have lost Game 2, but Paul George missed those two free throws, and that ended up being very big. So what are your thoughts, Mike?
If you're the Suns, I don't think you should be stressing too much. You're still up 2-1. Chris Paul, you said, I really don't think he looked the same. He looked a little off. You get more healthy. Devin Booker played really bad Game 2. So those are the main reasons they ended up losing. I think they're going to be completely fine. I think they just got to play better. It's just that simple. They didn't play their best Game 3. And while they should have lost Game 2, they didn't. The Clippers screwed that up, and they ended up getting a win in a game they should have lost. So you got Game 4. You hope you can come out strong. Worst case, it's 2-2. You still have home court advantage. 5, 6, 7. They can win those games. So I wouldn't say I should be worried about it, but the Clippers definitely played a lot better. PG has looked decent as the number one option, and where Kawhi isn't coming back Game 4, I don't know when he's coming back. The Clippers are really quiet about it. I don't know if they're trying to surprise Kawhi, haha, he's back. But I think the Suns played better. The Clippers played a lot better. They were really better on drop coverage and defense. And Pat Bev was just harassing D-Book all game. That seemed to really get under D-Book's skin. They were forcing him to drive. Zubac played a ton better. So if I'm the Clippers, I'm all right, we got to continue this momentum. And if I'm the Suns, you can't worry too much. The more you get in your own head, the worse you're going to play.
Now, the Suns kind of do well rebounding after games. It's the thing I noticed. They didn't really have to rebound in the Nuggets series because they swept them. But in the Lakers series, they lost 2 straight and they ended up winning.
They bounced back well.
So they do bounce back well. And if you're a Clippers fan here, should you be okay with relying on Paul George? Because although he has played very well, in the last 2 games, basically the whole series, 9 of 26 shooting, isn't great. It's about 34%, and missing those 2 free throws in the clutch, he's after last year's bubble, everyone's gonna have questions about whether he can perform in big situations, and he doesn't have Kawhi right now, so this is Paul George's time to block out the haters, show all the doubters that he's one of the best players in the league. So, as a Clipper, if you were a Clippers fan, are you confident in Paul George to get the Clippers back in the series?
PG was that guy when he was in Indiana. He was the leader of that team that got to the conference finals, ended up losing to LeBron, as a lot of people do. But, as you mentioned, that Game 2 late series, you have PG missing both free throws. Zubac guarded DeAndre Ayton like he was Devin Booker and he was going to pop out for a clutch 3. DeMarcus Cousins was on the floor and he can't defend me. So that whole situation was just bad. But PG missing both free throws definitely hurts. But I wouldn't be too worried because Paul George is still that dude. He stunk in the playoffs last year, absolutely stunk, but he's still a good player. You see, he averaged 30. He didn't average. He had 37 earlier this playoffs. Dude, he's still playing pretty well. And he didn't shoot it very well, but they got a good supporting cast. Reggie Jackson's looked pretty good. Terrence Mann has had some great games. Nick Batum's played pretty well. Pat Bev's just excellent on defense. They got guys who are going to do enough. And if PG can keep this high level of play going, the other guys will help. And I still think they got a chance at winning this series. If I had to pick a winner right now, I'd probably choose the Suns, just because I think Chris Paul is going to look a lot better. And I think there are a couple adjustments the Suns could make, which is just make your dribble pull-ups. That will really help them. But I wouldn't be too worried if I'm a Clippers fan. I still think you have a really good chance. You got a home game 4. Hope you can take that one. And yeah, I wouldn't be too worried. PG's still that dude. He's still a great player.
Yeah. Well, good. So, Clippers fans, if you're listening, you should be good to go. But we're going to move on. Oh, not move on. We're going to stay in this series. But one thing that I've noticed is the media has been giving Clippers head coach Tyronn Lue a lot of credit for, for the success. He's like, oh, in Game 7, they said that was all Ty Lue. We made great adjustments. But you were hating on Ty Lue because you thought he was coaching terribly in the Mavs series. So what do you have to say to the media that are praising Ty Lue?
Yeah, he gets so much undeserved credit for his great adjustments. It's like, look, I worked as a camp counselor this week. If I slapped a kid in the face on Monday, then didn't slap him Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I shouldn't be getting praise for being so good by not slapping a kid in the face. That's basically what Ty Lue has done. He makes terrible adjustments game 1 and 2, and then he corrects them 3, 4, 5, 6, and everyone's like, oh my God, he's the greatest basketball coach of all time. Step aside, John Wooden. Step aside, Coach Scumbag K. Step aside, everybody else. Ty Lue is here. He's changing the game. I mean, he benched Terrence Mann and Nick Batum game 2, and they were the players that have the 2 best plus-minus together, so I don't know why he did that. At the end saga of that game 2, as I mentioned, Zubac was on the floor guarding DeAndre Ayton like he's Devin Booker, and he's an excellent three-point shooter, instead of guarding the lane like he should have been doing because you knew they were going to try to go to the rim. DeMarcus Cousins was on the floor, and he can't do anything on defense. Why is he there? He's the worst defender in this series. And frankly, why is he even playing? He's so slow defensively. He was a good offensive spark, sure, but you can't play a guy like that more than 10 minutes. And you got someone like Daniel Oturu on the end of the bench who, look, he's probably not ready for big minutes, but he's a decently athletic big. He can kind of match up on Ayton. And if you want to go away from the small ball lineup and you want to give Zubac some rest, because he's looked better this series, I will say that. He's looked better. Not great, but better. But again, Ty Lue doesn't deserve credit for fixing his own mistakes. I wouldn't deserve a credit for not slapping a kid in the face. I wouldn't deserve credit for not calling Bennett a loser every single time. Hey. I mean, I don't deserve credit for doing something I'm supposed to do. I don't deserve credit for doing my job. That's not how things work, and Ty Lue's getting credit for doing his job. He doesn't deserve it. It's completely undeserved, and everyone giving him credit for all this stuff just wants to give him credit, clearly, because they're not doing more nuanced stuff. And I'm, as the smartest guy in any room I'm in, far and away, I realize this, and I realize the media are being frauds right now, and it's ridiculous.
All right, you hear that, everyone? The media are being frauds. All right, we're going to move on to the Eastern Conference in the Eastern Conference Finals between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. Now, I think everyone, well, not everyone, but I think a lot of people are surprised to see these two teams match up in the finals. But I'll give props to you, Michael. You called it in the first episode. The Bucks took down the Nets. And
I do. I mean, what can I say? I got a lot of, I was getting a lot of guff from a lot of people, from some of our buddies to my dad and my brother are yelling at me like, you're such an idiot. You picked the Bucks. Imagine being that stupid. And so, you know what? The real winner wins in the end. Series isn't over after 2 games. Can't take early victory laps. I didn't. I waited until that very final free throw was made by Brook Lopez before I took victory laps and told everyone I was the smartest guy they know. So credit to me. Yes. Thank you, Bennett. Thank you very much.
Yes. Credit to Michael and to the Bucks, because they played really well. In the back end of that series, they played very, very well. So good for the Bucks. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals now against the Hawks, who beat the Sixers, and there are a lot of questions about the Sixers that we can talk about another day. Oh, yeah. But the Hawks are there, the 5 seed, and good for. I just think good for the Hawks. Good for Atlanta's a young team, so this could just be the beginning. But the series is tied at 1 apiece right now. And in Game 1, Trae Young had 48 points and 11 assists, leading the Hawks to a win. But in game 2, Trae Young had 15 points, and the Bucks won, like I said earlier, by 34. So, question here is it as simple for the Bucks as stopping Trae Young and they should be good for the rest of the series?
Yeah, actually, that is really it for me. Trae Young was excellent game 1, as you mentioned, but I thought they defended him a lot better when I rewatched game 2. Trae Young had a ton of space to operate in game 1. They give him a ball screen. He basically has the entire floor, and he's like, all right, I'm going to hit a mid-range here. I'm going to hit a step back 3 here. Oh, floater here. Oh, look at that. Alley-oop to Capella. He had anything you wanted in game 1. And then at one point, they put Jeff Teague on him. Trae Young scored 8 points in what felt like 10 seconds. And the game was basically over at that point because Trae Young got in his rhythm. And while it was close, Trae Young was just doing what Trae Young wanted. But in game 2, the Bucks did a really good job of shrinking the floor, collapsing in the lane, and making Young have to kick it out to shooters. They can throw skip passes, and they could test those. I mean, the defense on the Bucks looked much better. And no one else is really going to get anything going for the Bucks. Like for the Hawks, sorry. Bogdanovich is a good player, but not a great player. And then you got a couple of other guys like that. Capella's not really going to beat you like offensively. Herter is a good player, but he's not at that level where you really have to be worried about him. So that's it. I really think it's just make someone else beat you. And since Trae Young isn't a great guy on the defensive end, you can take advantage of him there too. So if he's not beating you offensively, the Hawks are kind of screwed. So yeah, that's my take.
Well, the Hawks have been proving everyone wrong so far in the playoffs. I think, it was a 50-50 series with the Knicks. And but I don't think anyone really gave him a chance against the Sixers. But the Hawks are there. We'll see how they do. Now, this may be Michael's favorite topic, but it has something to do with college basketball. The NBA Combine was this past week, and there were records. And the NBA draft is not until July 29th, so we have some time, and we'll do probably a preview when we get up near that time. But Michael's going to talk some NBA Combine. What did you see, and who did you like?
Yeah, so you got to start off. There were 2 athletes who just really impressed, just on the the charts, stuff like that. You have Keon Johnson. He broke the record for the highest vertical leap, a record that lasted about 20 years, and he broke it by 2.5 inches. He posted a 48-inch vertical. That's insane. He jumps 4 feet off of the ground. He broke a record by 2.5 inches that lasted 20 years. 4 feet off the ground. I mean, that's insane. He deserves all the credit in the world for that. Coming out of Tennessee, he wasn't really impressive in college, but he showed he's got athletic potential. And he's like, all right, I just got to show my vertical. I don't got to do anything else. I'm getting drafted in the top 10. And then next guy, Jericho Sims, where he did get overshadowed by the insane vertical of Keon Johnson. Jericho Sims from Texas was always known as an insane athlete, and he absolutely proved that. He's 6'10", and you aren't supposed to do anything that Jericho Sims can do at 6'10". He's such a good athlete, especially for a guy who was looked at as a late second rounder / undrafted guy. At 6'10", he had a max vertical of 44.5 inches. Only 3 guys have ever jumped higher than that, and that included Keon Johnson, who broke the record just a couple days ago. And none of the guys who were above him were above 6'5". He's 6'10". He's a big man with that vertical. And if you remember how Blake Griffin was dunking on everybody when he got into the league, Blake Griffin's an inch smaller, and Simmons' vertical was 9 inches higher than Blake Griffin. Insane. You can almost get a foot higher than Blake Griffin, who was known as this insane athlete dunking on everybody in the beginning. He had 10 just jaw-dropping, insane dunks when he was at Texas. Sims did. And his jumping ability is insane. He looked really good in some of the combine games. He was dunking on everybody, catching lobs. He had a little floater that worked a couple times, which he really didn't have at college. And he was playing really good defense, blocking almost everything. So Jericho Sims was a guy who really impressed me. You don't, at 6'10", you just don't do the things that he can do athletically. He's that guy who you're like, he could be a great tight end in football. Oh my God, he's also this insane basketball player. So shout out to him. And then you got some of the guards that impressed me, just game-wise. First guy is Carlik Jones. He played at Radford for 3 years and transferred to Louisville for his senior year. He really impressed me in day 1 of the G League Combine, which was on Twitch. I'm one of the 7 people watching the G League Combine both days nonetheless, but
dedication.
What am I doing with my life? Anyway, with Carlik Jones, I really liked his game out of Louisville. He's a small, undersized guard, but he's elite. like just in the pick and roll and stuff like that. His numbers on day one jump off the page, but like any other day, day two of the G League Combine, he really didn't. Both days of the NBA Combine, his numbers don't look great, but in every single spot coming off the pick and roll, like he would make the right read. And he missed some like easy jumpers that he usually makes that I've seen him make thousands of times. And when he would pass it off to teammates, I saw one time it was Johnny Juzang made a 3-ball that was like an open look that Carly Jones generated off of a pick and roll. Every other time it felt like the guys would just not shoot the ball or just miss it. So, I mean, when he gets to the NBA level, because I think he's an NBA guard, I think he could be a borderline first rounder, and he's not looked at as such. Those guys are going to make those shots. And if he's making that right play off the pick and roll, like, I mean, he's just going to be super effective for a guy going really late in this draft. He was near perfect on day one. I think he was 7 of 7 at one point, maybe 8 of 8. And he didn't shoot it as well at the later end of the combine. But, like, he's just that good. He's a really crafty guard. He has that same swagger that Chris Paul has to his game. I don't think he's as good as Chris Paul. Relax. I don't. I'm not going that far. But he plays with that, like, same swagger. He showed everything he needed to at college. He showed it will translate to the NBA. And I think he's a steal based on the value he's going at. He really impressed me. Another guy, Bones Highland out of ECU. The worries about Highland were, will his scoring ability translate to the next level? And in the one game he played in the NBA Combine, he's like, yeah, don't doubt me. They will. In the first game, and his only game, he was 7-11 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, completely controlled that game, and he had 17, 5 boards, 4 assists. He did just about everything his team needed, proved it, getting buckets, creating his own shot, dishing off to teammates, played some decent defense. He showed everything he needed to, played one game. He's like, all right, I've done my work. You're drafting me in the first round, and if you don't, you're an idiot. So Bones Highland really impressed me. Great nickname, by the way. Bones isn't his actual given name. It's Nishan, but Bones Highland, that's a great nickname. So
like that. Bones.
Yeah, you gotta. Great nickname. And lastly, the guy who impressed me the most and absolutely improved his draft stock the most was Quentin Grimes. Former 5-star recruit who went to Kansas, did not have a ton of success at Kansas. After 1 year, transferred to Houston, played 2 years under Kelvin Sampson, and really improved from year 2 to year 3. And at the NBA Combine, he played like he was at Houston. He played with that Kelvin Sampson toughness that teams have been looking for such a long time. And he shot the ball so well. He shot it 5 of 8 from the field in game 1, 2 of 6 from 3, 2 of 4, from 3, 6 boards, 3 assists, moved the ball very well, defended incredibly well. That improved so much in his college career because Kelvin Sampson teaches defense. And in day 2, oh man, he put on a shooting clinic. He put up 27 points, 10 of 17 shooting, 7 of 12 from 3. It felt like he didn't miss a single shot all game. He was that good. And his defense, again, he brought it on that end, improved so much on that end from high school to this level. And the worry about him was, will his shooting ability translate to the NBA? Is he that good shooting from 3? Is he going to be able to create his own shot? And he proved it very quickly. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be able to score here. I'm going to be able to shoot here. You're going to have to try to stop me. He was looked at to be like a late second round / undrafted guy. With how he did it this combine in both games, consistent performances, dominant performances, he showed that he could be a late first round pick. He showed that at that value, he was an absolute steal. He showed toughness, great shot making ability, and he moved the ball well on the offensive end. He was finding open guys, working well to pick and roll, stepping back, hitting shots, doing everything. And he played with that chip on his shoulder that you are looking for if you're an NBA team. You're looking for, okay, I'm going to get this guy. He's going to be tough, and he's going late. I mean, second round you could go to? You could go to a legit contender and just add a couple of shot making, just some shot making. He's a guy the Clippers could really use right now. He's the exact player the Clippers are looking for. So, guy like this, late first round pick, bucket, good defender, 6'5". He can guard 1 through 3. He really impressed me. He is one all of the scouts should have been like, okay, we had him low on our draft board. He's got to skyrocket. And then 2 quick shout outs. McKinley Wright of Colorado, who ruined ruined everything in March for me, but he showed his playmaking will translate. He can still score the ball. And Dwayne Washington out of Ohio State, he's like, you're worried about me getting buckets. I'm getting buckets on everybody. 2 days at the G League Combine, 2 days at the NBA Combine. He's getting buckets on everybody. So those are my combine reads. We'll have some more draft stuff coming out, but I think I was like the one person watching all 4 days of the combine that you could. The 2 days on Twitch, then the day on ESPNU for the NBA Combine, ESPN2. I'm like the one guy watching it. So those are my reads. Boom. Let's go.
Well, you all just heard that. Just wait for our NBA Combine preview because that'll blow your mind. Because Michael has the college basketball mind.
Oh yeah,
But
it's my sport.
and all right, well, that's kind of all we have. I'll talk for the shout outs. I have just some baseball to talk about, just what's going on. The Nationals are hot, really, really hot. They're winning. They did not play very well last night. They lost 11-2 to the Marlins. But we're now second place in the NL East. At least I hope we're still second. But we took second in the NL East this week after we swept the Phillies in 2 games. Why? Because Juan Soto is the GOAT, very well. But Kyle Schwarber is cooking the hell out of every team he plays. He has 9 home runs in the last 6 games. And he's just doing great in the leadoff spot. One thing the Nationals struggled earlier in the season was hitting with runners in scoring position. Now they're doing that very well. It's great to see. Trey Turner, a lot of people don't talk about Trey Turner because he's overshadowed by Fernando Tatis and the Jacob deGrom, who by no means should not be talked about, but Trey Turner needs some love. I'm pretty sure he's batting around 310, 315, and that's very impressive in the MLB. And yes, Tatis did hit 3 home runs last night, but it was against the Diamondbacks. Okay, the Diamondbacks are the worst in the league.
Anyway, in 4 innings though, you got to give him some credit there. That's insane.
It was the Diamondbacks, Michael. That's basically a AAA team right now. But yes, I just want to shout out Kyle Schwarber and the Nats. I hope they keep it going, and hopefully we won't lose 11-2 to the Marlins again tonight. Mike, any last words?
Yeah, we all know about how excited you've been because Bennett's been texting us like nonstop every single time Schwarber's a dinger. Bennett's like, Schwarber's the best player of all time. Schwarber's this guy. So I know he's been impressed by him. If you ever want to talk more Kyle Schwarber, he's not going to continue the success. I'll be the first hater. Prove me wrong, Schwarber. I am a Yankees fan first, but you know what? It was fun seeing the Nats win. It was a fun run. It was fun seeing everybody I know super hyped. But got to shout out Anderson Silva, UFC legend. He boxed against you don't go into boxing. He boxed Julio Cesar Chavez, who was who was like a decent boxer. Like he's not like as good as his dad was, but he's decent. And Silva went out there and dominated that fight, frankly. You don't see guys translate into that sport and go at that high level. And Clarissa Shields, I think we recorded the day she fought. She fought for PFL. She was an elite boxer who transitioned into MMA a couple weeks back. And she won her fight. She lost the first 2 rounds, but she was tough in the 3rd round. That was impressive. Shout out to her. But Anderson Silva going out and boxing at a much higher level than she came into for MMA is insane. Silva won that fight, dominated. You saw how happy he was. That was an awesome story. Shout out to Anderson Silva. Good on you, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Mike and Beans, and we will be back next week.
Peace.